Coop, man. How you doing, bro?
I'm doing very well. How are you, man?
I'm doing well, man. I'm glad we got some new music. I think next week we got Migos, man. I think Migos dropping next week. But this week we got the new DMX. We're welcoming everybody into the room. Want everybody to let us know what they feeling on this new DMX. Hold on one second. Let me make sure we get everybody in Facebook Live on our live real quick. But yeah, what were some of
No,
your reactions when you heard the album?
no. Real quick, I need to do something real quick.
Go ahead, go ahead.
Today is my Aunt Tessie's 70th birthday today, and I wanted to wish her a happy birthday.
Oh, that's awesome, man. Happy birthday, Aunt Tessie.
Yeah, Aunt Tessie.
Nice,
And when I
nice.
was a kid and I used to go to Charlotte, she used to get me these every time I came to Charlotte, and I haven't had one in years. But about that, sorry about that.
No, no, it's
But
all good.
about that, I went and got me one today, so I just want to wish my Aunt Tessie up in Charlotte a happy 70th birthday and Nestle Crunch just for you.
Happy birthday, Aunt
Mike,
Tessie, up in Charlotte.
Mike, Mike,
Yeah,
Mike, don't play around with her in the morning. She want her coffee and her newspaper, and you need to be quiet.
I do the same thing. I get a coffee and a newspaper. Well, I got a digital newspaper at this point, but yeah, same deal, man. Got to get your information up. But yes,
Yeah.
yes,
Sorry, that was
DMX
my
has
brother
new
calling. He
music.
just landed. My brother just landed. That's why that was the phone call. That's my bad. So back to DMX though.
All right, back to DMX. Capo Carter says DMX has new music. Yes, where you been, man? DMX dropped a new album at midnight today or whatever. It came out today. Yep, midnight last night. Donovan Brentley says yes. So I got a chance to go over the album a couple of times. I know you probably did as well. Let's go to the track list real quick, man. While everybody's coming in the room, what was some of your takeaways from the album off the first couple listens?
Um, first couple of listens. I mean, I think you and I had different takes on it. I think after a few listens, I kind of leaned more towards your way with it. Was super impressed by the first track, the track with the locks.
Funny you said that. Roy Bullock just said in the chat that first track was hard. Let's talk about it.
You want to know what I really thought, Mike? I
Mm-hmm.
really had a moment where I was like, yo, they listening to us. Because, Mike, every time I talk about DMX, what do I say about him? He speaks for the have-nots.
Mm-hmm.
And so when he comes on, let's do it for the have-nots, do it for the low-lifes. It's like, yeah, that's who X doing it for.
You just know what you're talking about. That's all that is.
Yeah. I mean, there's that part of it, too. You know what I mean? I was just thinking that for a second. So. Don't be stealing my shit. But, no, he does do it for the have-nots. And that's how the album's supposed to start. It's supposed to start on some X shit, on some
Mm-hmm.
Yonker shit. It's supposed to start that way. And so that was really, really good. I know you and I disagree about bath salt, so we can go ahead and get into that now.
Let's get into bath salt because Donovan Bramlett says that bath salt is crazy. I felt like bath salt was underwhelming, honestly, but I feel like that just in just about every Jay-Z and Nas collaboration. And I say it like that because, X was on here, but, this isn't X of the 90s or early 2000s, obviously. And even, and Bath Salt just sounded old to me. It sounded, I don't know, and it sounded incomplete. You could tell they took somebody's verse off. They took Jada's verse off. I really wish they would have kept that verse. And, when you go in the hardcore route, I'm not really a big Swiss Beats fan like that when it comes to those things. And if you need Swiss Beats for a party anthem, cool. But like the hardcore records, man, like it's something about those snares and kicks that he uses that really takes away from that grittiness for me. So, I mean, I'm not saying Bath Salt is a bad song. I'm just saying that, the fact that we got DMX, Jay-Z, and Nas together, it's not going to be one of those records that I was like, yo, I got to go back and play Bath Salt. That shit was crazy. Like, 10 Bricks or something like that. I mentioned 10 Bricks because, that's Ghostface, Kappa, and Ray out of the Cuban Link era, but it's still crazy. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
Wu-Tang. And yes, we know Bath Salt was a throwaway from Life is Good. I don't understand how
Okay.
that it would have even been on Life is Good, period. But what's your takeaway
No.
from Bath Salt?
Okay, so let's contextualize a couple things. I'm glad whoever in the chat brought up the fact that
Hold
first
up,
of
hold
all,
up,
it's
hold
not
up,
a
hold up,
thorough.
Coop. Hold up. You're frozen. I really want to hear what
Yeah,
you got to say. I'm gonna hang it up, and you know what I'm saying. I'm gonna call you right back, and we're gonna talk bath salt real quick. Hold
that's cool. I'm gonna eat this Nestle Crunch.
on. All
I ain't
right.
having these in a minute.
Had to get him a snicker moment. I'm about to get him right back in there though. But yeah, I felt like bath salt was underwhelming. Whoa, our guy JJ Ryder says that 10 out of 10. Perfect album, perfect balance. Swiss Beats
What?
did an amazing job. We're going to get to all that. You go ahead and talk bath salt,
Big
please.
tripping. Um,
I'm giving it, I know you're eating your crunch right now.
excellent too. Go ahead.
At the most, it's getting a 6 out of 10 for me. And I'll get into it. Roy Bullock says, I don't like the Money Bag Yo, but it was good. I didn't like the Money
Me
Bag
neither.
Yo song at all. And it
Me
was
neither. I
not
didn't
good.
like that at all.
The song with Lil
I thought
Wayne
that
was
was the
not
weakest
good
song
either.
on the album.
I mean, those are head scratches. Like, what the fuck? But I'm going to get into my whole, spiel about Swiss's production or lack thereof on this album. I'm going to let you go ahead and talk bath soft, though.
You so shady.
Just keeping it real, man.
No, I try to contextualize things. So bath salts. First of all, when you're talking about a Nas track, it's really not a throwaway track. When I found out that it was supposed to be on Life Is Good, I was wondering why it didn't make the Lost Tapes 2. For one, because the Lost Tapes
Yeah.
2 was terrible, and definitely could have used bath salts on it. That was my first thought. My second thought is that was a track that was probably made to give Life Is Good some more upbeat and tempo, because Life Is Good is really dope but really melodic, Mike. Outside of the Nas the Don track that Heavy D did before he passed,
Yeah.
there's really not like a lot of what I'd like to call up tempo, clubbish, bangerish kind of songs. So for that era, that song would have been that. But I'm gonna kind of quibble with you about the same thing that I said when we were talking behind the scenes, which is that you got any other tracks where Jay Nas and DMX are passing the mic together?
But see, again, I don't want to get caught up in the personnel, and that's the same
No.
thing.
Does anybody else have that track? Because if not, Bath Salts is one of a kind.
I feel you, but my thing is, man, I don't want to get caught up in the personnel, and we talked about this a couple of weeks ago when Jay.
Mike, listen to the personnel. No, personnel.
I understand what you're saying, but again, we're not talking about personnel in 1998 either. And this is just like when we were talking about that DJ Khaled song that he put out with Jay and Nas. We're listening to these guys, even if this is in 2012. This is Barkley, Pippen, and Olajuwon on the Rockets. It's what it is. So we're not talking about.
So
we're not talking about the big three in Miami. We're not. You know what I'm saying? So personnel, I'm throwing that out the window.
No. They're not necessarily. They're not like KD, Kyrie, and Harden right now by any means, but they're not Olajuwon, Pippen, and Barkley and Houston on this track. No, they're not. Like Hove and Nas are fresh on that track. Nas is surprisingly fresh and agile on that track, Mike.
I think we have different. I think we have different standards of what fresh is with those guys, man. Because I mean, the Nas verse ain't bad, but it's not like I'm sitting here listening to these. It's not like I'm sitting here listening to verbal intercourse or something.
Mike, the verse that he delivered. How many guys do you think that can deliver that verse in between X and J? That's what I'm saying. Like, you like, oh, that verse all right. No, Mike, that verse ain't all right. That verse is not like epic. The song's not epic, but it's like I said, the verse is dope as fuck. How about this? Nas's verse is what the song is. The verse is dope as fuck. So is the song.
It's cool.
It's not a classic.
It's cool.
Well, it's not cool, Mike. It's dope. It's different. Like something that's cool. It's like, Mike. Here's what I'm saying. It's like beats, rhymes, and life is cool.
Yeah, you know very average.
Like this track ain't that. No. It's not that. It's not just cool, Mike. It's better than cool. Like you're not giving it enough credit. I'm not saying it's classic. I'm not saying it's epic. I'm saying it's dope as fuck, Mike.
EC Justine says automatically a classic. 5 mics.
Wow.
Roy Bullock says, do you like the Alicia Keys joint? No, I didn't.
So tell me why.
And
Tell me
Mark
why
Douglas
track
said,
10.
"What the
Hold
fuck,
on.
dude is a fool." All right, listen. All right, I'll be that. I'll be a fool or whatever. Maybe y'all are hearing something I'm not hearing. Rest in peace to DMX. I don't want to sound like I'm coming down on X or whatever. Obviously, his legacy is what it is. DMX is one of the greatest to ever do it. But let's not sit here and act like because of who this album is a classic. And I was going to get into my whole spiel and the fact that I think mostly this is, as a project manager, this is on Swiss. Swiss failed this project. And if you guys in the chat who are saying so much about this classic, that, tell me what classic hip hop albums that Swiss Beats has actually produced the whole thing of. This is what the issue is. Swiss produced the whole thing. Now, can he make hits? Yeah, we can't, erase his hits. He got some groundbreaking hits out there, but when you talk about putting together a classic album from end to end, Swiss ain't gonna do that for you. And in this sense, he didn't do that for X. He never has, actually. And it's dark and hell is hot. That's all PK and Dame Grease. Swiss did one track on there, and Flesh of My Flesh, Blood of My Blood, he only did what, like 7 or 8? But again, that's X in his prime.
I believe.
Saying all that to say, Swiss, you think we were talking about Poison offline. He did a really good job with Poison, but again, that's an array of artists. And I think the problem with this album is the fact that DMX, it sounds like the tracks were more catered to the people that he was actually collaborating with more than him. And I think you pointed it out with the Snoop song. That song sounds like it's more fit for Snoop than it is X. And, it's a dope song. I like it. But, I think production-wise, Swiss failed them. And that Lock song, as dope as it was, it sounded like something that was on Locke's album that dropped last year, Living Off of Experience. So, yeah, it sounds like that was more catered to them. They sound way more comfortable on it than X did.
So, once again, a lot to unpack.
Yeah.
Can I start unpacking some of
Go
it?
ahead, go ahead.
First of all, I think I'm somewhere in the middle of where you are and where the viewers are. I don't think it's a classic, but I don't think it's bad. Or I'm not gonna tell people behind the scenes what you called it when I text you and ask you what I thought of what you thought of it. But it's not that either. I think it's a solid project with some very good highlights, but some missteps and some possible missed moments. I want to go to the executive production right quick since you talked about Swiss.
Mm-hmm.
I think his missteps weren't necessarily beat wise. I think some of the missteps were pairing wise, content wise, and in a couple of cases just song sequence wise.
I think that's interesting, yeah.
But he did some good things here, like the Exodus skit right after Walking in the Rain, which I think is the highlight of the album.
I agree.
I thought the way that the album finished from track 10 to 13 was pretty masterfully done from an executive production standpoint. And two of the 5 tracks on there that I thought were really dope were Walking in the Rain and Letter to My Son. So the album to me had a strong start and a strong finish. It's the stuff in the middle where things kind of got funny, because it's like I really enjoyed the first and second track, but it's kind of like 4 to 9 is kind of like a pick'em bag to me. And so, like, for me, when I'm saying it's a pick'em bag, it's like money, money, money. That's a no for me. Hold Me Down is just all right to me, and just in the middle. Skyscrapers is a no for me. The Stick Up skit I could have did without, but I understood it because it was leading into the Griselda record. I really enjoyed the Griselda record. I think the record is dope as fuck, but I have to be honest with our viewers, and I'm going to tell them what I told you behind the scenes, which is that it really sounded like he was on his last legs on that track recording wise, and that doesn't sound good. And so the song is pretty epic actually until his part, which is like disappointing. And since it was the first single, it left you with the feeling of hoping, don't let the whole album sound like this, as in I don't want to hear him like this for the whole album that way. And so that track, even though I really enjoyed it, is still the middle of the road because it's
Mm-hmm.
his track still. But what's dope about the track is Griselda. But
Yeah.
Mike, I mean, Griselda winning right now. So you know,
Let
and
me
so
jump in real quick with
no,
some of
no,
these
Mike. There's one more
comments.
song,
Go
and
ahead.
then there's the Take Control song, Mike, which I
Mm-hmm.
actually like. But when I listen to
Control.
the
Okay.
track, I'm like, actually, more suited for Snoop and should be two Snoop verses and one X verse, and the track probably goes off more masterfully.
For me, I feel like the way that X approached that, some of the stuff that he was saying content wise didn't really match up with what we normally know X as. And someone put in here in the chat, I think it was JJ Ryder, that we want it's dark and hell is hot, and he's 50 years old. Well, some of the things he said in this record, I wouldn't expect from a 50-year-old either. So I don't know. I mean, it sounded good. The sonically it was there, but lyrically I was like, I don't know. It's K
So
Hussein says, "Walking in the Rain" is his favorite song.
yeah,
Javier Ares says, "The beat for the Jay and Nas song, Bath Salt, should have done something like Black Republican beat." Yeah, the beat was weak. I'm sorry. He said the beat is weak for the Jay and Nas song. I agree with that. I mean, but again, I told you that offline. I wasn't feeling Swiss's production on that. And
but
this
you
is
don't like Swiss either, Mike. Like you're not a
I
fan of his
don't. I
production
don't.
beforehand
Are
either.
you a fan
And
of
once
Swiss's
again, I think
production?
I'm somewhere in the. Well, I think I'm somewhere in the middle with that too, where it's like, oh no, not a super big fan of his, in love with his production, but he does know how to hit the mark from time to time, and you know, I don't think that track is bad. That's what I'm saying. Like I don't think that beat is bad. I don't think that's a bad beat. Like you know what was a bad beat from him? Do you remember the General that Nas did?
That was
That
bad.
was a bad beat.
JJ
That was
Ryder
a bad
says that Money 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 record is the Pop Smoke record. They took him off because Pop Smoke people used the verse. So I guess they've already used the verse. Oh, okay. Yeah, I was wondering where the Pop Smoke record went because X was talking about him. He collaborated with Pop Smoke. I think he said that on the Drink Champs. Um, Back to the whole Swiss production thing. It's kind of like how I feel about Hit Boy producing Nas's whole record, right? Or let's just not say Nas. Let's say Benny the Butcher.
I about to say you
And
felt a certain type of way about both of
I
those.
felt a way about both of them. You know what I'm saying? And I view Swiss in that way. I'm sitting here thinking like, yo, if Alchemist would have done that whole Benny record, that would have been something else. And I feel the same way. Like if somebody like an Alchemist would have produced the whole X record, how would that sound?
So, what I was saying, I'm going to share this again, and this is what I
Mm-hmm.
told you offline. I really felt like musically and stylistically, what I wanted to hear from the album was more of "That's My Dog" and more of "Walking in the Rain,"
Okay,
stylistically, because I felt like he
I
was
agree.
more in his element and at his best there. Somebody pointed out to me that where he actually is suffering now isn't even vocally, it's that he doesn't appear to be as content driven with his writing as he used to be. Like somebody told me they were pretty much like he doesn't talk about the females the same. It's like it's not about even talking grimy or ratchet. It's just not as detail oriented as it used to be, and so it speaks to the craft and like what he was maybe doing with the craft, and being pulled in a lot of different directions as well.
Right.
Because also to understand, and this is what I was telling you, Mike. No, he's a Hall of Fame MC, so it's probably not a problem for him to go in and spit a verse. A Hall of Fame MC can do that,
Mm-hmm.
and he's one of the better ones that we've had in his prime. I was trying to think about somebody to equate him to, like sports wise. I
It's
think
very
I
hard.
think he's probably. I was thinking about Moses Malone today,
You know
actually,
who
Mike.
I would think, and they're playing right now. He's kind of like a Derrick Rose in a sense.
No,
Had
he's
had an
higher than that
MVP
because Derrick Rose
season.
isn't a Hall of Famer, Mike. Derrick Rose is probably going to be the first MVP not to make the Hall of Fame. DMX is
That's
a
true.
first ballot Hall of Famer. That's
That's
what I'm
true.
saying.
Yeah.
So he's somebody like Moses Malone to me that it's like, well, Moses kind of played when Kareem and Dr. J and Magic and Bird played, and then Mike came along. And so I kind of look at X like that. But if you go back and look at the numbers and look at some of the years, there were actually a couple of years where Moses was the best player in the game.
Moses
You
was
can say the same
incredible.
thing about X.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, Moses. People forget, but Moses won back-to-back MVPs. If I'm not mistaken, led the league in rebounding like 4 or 5 times, led the league in scoring once. Fo got a championship ring, and so I kind of
Mm-hmm.
look at DMX like that. DMX, it's dark and hell is hot would definitely be his championship ring. And for about that 97, 98 era, he was the hottest MC in the game, kind of like Moses Malone's MVP seasons. And when you go back and look at the numbers, it's like, no, he's right there and kind of underrated and understated, but like a Hall of Famer and somebody that could even give somebody like Kareem in their prime the business.
You
And
know,
just like he could give somebody like Jay or Nas in their prime the business.
I mean,
You
because
feel
he
me?
was at the top of the game at one point. I want to go to this chat real quick because people are bringing up some good points. I mean, overall, from what I'm seeing, people like Swiss's production. People think that the production was really good on here, really solid. Roy Bullock says that the features made the album, though. Donovan Brimman says, yeah, that Nas and Hit Boy album was dumpster juice. Roy Bullock says, uh, Built Like a Bitch is one of my favorite songs from the older DMX. Oh, Javier says that one producer album is not working for Nas. He needs multiple sounds. Listen, man, I mean, I know we didn't come here for a Nas discussion, but I think that everyone has all these different. I don't think anybody's on the same page for what Nas needs production wise. Some people are fine with his production. Some people call him one of the worst beat pickers in hip hop. Some people like it when he has a diverse amount of production. Some people thinks he needs to just rap over Primo shit. No one knows. And I
Hey,
think,
you,
go ahead.
you want to know what, Mike? First of all, I'm tired of hearing this shit. Been hearing this shit literally my entire adult life about Nas and the beat selection and the producer. So tired of doing it. But you want to know what? I think you actually did do something when you. First of all, the beats on King's Disease are better than the beats on Burden of Proof, in my opinion. Um, but I would have liked to see Nas. I told you, Mike, I'd love to see Nas work with like an Alchemist, a Premier, a Pete Rock for a whole project with some other guys sprinkled in. It's like I don't want Hit Boy doing Nas's whole project either. But also too, Mike. I mean, and I think people are missing this. Oh, Nas ain't sounded current in a long time, and I think he's the GOAT. And Hit Boy did do that for him, and I think people are missing that.
You don't feel like he sounded current on Life is Good?
Win him his first Grammy, Mike. It did just win him his first Grammy.
I don't want to use Grammys as anything that's like an
No, Mike,
accomplishment,
Mike,
but
Mike, I'm saying that to say he really ain't. No, when you look at his career, though, Mike, I mean, what is he missing other than a Grammy?
I don't know if he's well. I don't think that validates anything in hip hop, especially in the arena that he's in. But he's one of the greatest ever. I don't think he's missing anything like that per se, but I think what Nas is missing, if you want to say he's missing anything, is to give people that organic energy that we felt in earlier parts of his career. Now we're not gonna get that. We're not gonna get that.
No. You want to know what? We spoke to this when we talked about Big, and I think the same thing applies to Nas. He's just not given a pass for it. It's like, oh no, you can't ask that dude to rap about what's going on outside his project window anymore because he don't live in the projects anymore, staring out that project window.
I understand that, and I think sometimes that can be a cop out. I saw JJ Ryder said something about that, and I think I said it on the show when he was talking about we want as dark and hell is hot. That's not what we want. This is the thing.
No,
like this is the thing. Jay-Z, for an example, he was able to make Reasonable Doubt. At another point in his career, he was able to make The Blueprint. And then at another point in his career, he was able to make An American Gangster. And these are records that, it's like, okay, that's not Reasonable Doubt, but my God, I feel that in similar ways. You know what I'm saying? Like, you recaptured a certain energy at different points in your life. And I feel like with Nas, I agree with you, the fact that he's not staring out that project window, but you couldn't tell it because he's always quoting that. He's always quoting those project steps, project hallways. I was just listening to Echo. Echo was that.
So you always are going to go back to the core of what makes you an MC. So let's go back to DMX, Jay, and Nas for a second since they were just on a track together.
Right.
Jay's always going to go back to the hustler, business maker, business money making mentality in his rhymes, even though he doesn't hustle anymore. Nas is always going to go back to the project window. DMX is always going to go back to the pain and the hurt. So these are core things that make them who they are. So you're gonna get do rags, Mike. You know what I'm saying? You're gonna get Car 85. Like you're gonna get those project window joints, but you're not gonna get an album full of them anymore. You're gonna get Nas retelling the stories of what had already happened because he's not there anymore. Jay does the same thing with the hustling. Go back to Drug Dealers Anonymous, Mike. You know what I'm saying?
I think the
X
difference
is doing the
between
same thing on this album. So no, hold on 1 second. So
mm-hmm.
it's a reference point of what gives them their strength as MCs. Mike, if you go pull up Nas's 25 best songs, there's gonna be like 12 or 13 different producers.
I think that's kind of a problem. I think
Mike, that's kind of like every other MC's catalog.
But see, no, the difference is we don't feel like, and I think everybody can agree with this. Collectively, it's clear that Nas hasn't found his groove with all of those producers. Him and Salam Remy, they've touched Magic once or twice. But a lot of those people, it's like, I feel like somebody could do better. Like, you could tell DMX and Swiss, they had their point in time where they were just clicking. You could tell Kanye and Jay, Just Blaze and Jay, they had their time where they were clicking. Dame Grease and X. But with Nas using a variety of producers, and when him and Salam Remy would get in the lab, I mean, you gotta make you look, but shit, him and Salam Remy don't have anything close to that outside of that.
You do understand that what you're saying is part of why I think he's the greatest MC of all time, right? Is because he has classic tracks across the board with everybody.
Does he?
Hello. I mean, Mike, I would say that almost every producer that he's worked with and done multiple tracks with, he's made classic stuff with at some point, except for the Neptunes and Timbaland, just off the top of my head.
So he got a classic with Swiss.
I have to check. Echo, Mike. Yeah, Echo. There you go. Echo.
Echo's a good song. I'll give you that. And I don't believe Swiss made that. I'm sorry. Respectfully, I'll say that. But I don't.
Mike, no. Let's do that right quick. Go down the list of all the producers he's worked with. If Nas has done 3 or 4 tracks with a producer, there's a classic song somewhere to be had.
So you think that he got a Trackmasters classic? Maybe.
Mike, The Message, Shootouts.
They did do shootouts, didn't they? They did do shootouts. So
and The Message, Mike, that's 2 classics. That's the same damn album. And
you know what I really
after that.
Hussein says, Hudson says, fam, that was 30 years ago. Listen, I feel you, man.
Facts are facts.
Like, the thing is, man.
It don't matter when the track got made. It don't matter when the track got made, Mike. The Message and Shootouts are classic songs. That's like saying, oh, Paid in Full got made in 1980s. That don't matter. It's still Paid in Full, nigga.
But he's not active like that. Look.
Niggas is wild.
Look, forgive him. Forgive him, guys. He's a super Nas fan.
At the track record, he has classic records with almost every producer that he's worked with multiple times, except for the Neptunes and Timbaland.
But see, my thing is, I feel like if you can't make a classic with the Neptunes and Timbaland, especially like in the way that Jay has been able to do it, we gotta hold that against him.
Mike, I would agree with you too if he didn't have classic records with everybody else.
Who is everybody else, though? Everybody else, really?
DJ Premier, Pete Rock, Large Professor, Salah Remy. Like, you want to keep on going, Mike? Like,
I would love for you to keep on going.
Hit Boy, everybody that he's done multiple records with, he's made classic shit with. Period.
Hey, what's up, Spade TV? We got Spade TV in the building.
It's not even up for conversation or discussion. The records are there. Mike, he made Phone Tap with Dr. Dre, didn't he?
Oh my God, man. You know what? That was the firm, but okay. I guess I'll give you that. I mean, I guess, man. I guess.
Mike, Hustlers.
You know what I think a lot of people's issue is? You know, if we talk about, I feel you, but let's be real. Has Nas's 2000s been great?
I mean, in relationship to what, Mike? Because he made Godson, Life is Good, and King's Disease in the 2000s. Is that what you're saying? Like, are you saying 2000 to 2010, or are you just talking 2000 to like 9?
I'm talking about 2000s, period. The past 20 years.
Mike, He's made just as many dope records as Jay.
Has he?
What are you talking about?
Has he?
Yeah, he has.
Because in the
Yeah, he has. Like,
2000s, and
Still
go
mad
ahead.
at Godson. Still mad at Godson. Life is good. King's disease.
Okay, you put those four up against the Blueprint, the Black Album, American Gangster, and let's just say, the Dynasty, or I could throw in the Blueprint 3.
You need to throw in the Blueprint 3 because you're not helping yourself when you said the Dynasty.
I mean, I think the Dynasty's better than Godson, honestly. Let's just keep it real.
Mike. It's not even a conversation, Mike.
Come on.
There's not one record on the Dynasty that's even fucking with Get Down, Mike, and that's the second best.
So you're telling me that This Can't Be Life ain't better than Get Down? Stop it.
No, it's not.
You know what?
No,
and
it's not.
Andre Shashir said Distant
Mike.
Relatives.
No, it's not.
Distant Relatives is dope.
With the James Brown sample, and no, it's not.
Get Down's alright, man. I mean, again, I don't want to get too far off course, but overall, if we're talking about this DMX album, I'm giving it a 3 out of 5, man, and that's, respectful.
I'm giving it a 3.5, Mike, just because the missteps were like money, like missteps.
Money is bad. It's not good.
It's not good. The Dogs Out track with Lil Wayne, I was just like that.
Hold on. People say we tripping. What do y'all give it out of 5? Out of 5, what are you giving this album? Everybody out there that says we tripping.
I want people to run it down for me if I'm tripping.
But go ahead. Say what you're going to. They said, let's enjoy the music. We're enjoying the music.
Hold on. No, I feel like it was overall well produced. I told you, I thought the beat selection was good.
Right.
I felt like some of the pairings weren't right, and some of the stuff sound forced, like you said. But I want people to run down for me if they think this is like, do y'all think it's better than J. Cole's album? Because I thought that was a 4. And if you think that's better than Cole's album, I just want people to explain to me where you're feeling that at, like lyrically and beat-wise at. Because, Mike, the best verses on this album belong to Kiss, Styles, Sheik, Nas twice, Benny, and Conway.
Well, my favorite song on there is definitely the Griselda record. And again, I told you offline it sounded fresh. I like the Lox record too. But again, the Lox are in the zone right now. And really, they're in a zone that, people aren't really talking about too much. But that record is dope too.
No, Mike. I want to make a statement right quick about the Lox because here's what I thought of when I heard them. And I was saying this to you behind the scenes. Outside of Wu-Tang Clan, there's never been a group more lyrically skilled than the Lox. Okay? In the history of rap, not outside. No, not
that's interesting. I got to think about that one.
No, Mike, because if you look at how they sound lyrically right now, first of all, they're better than they are when they came out 97, 98-ish.
I agree.
And Mike, they still sound like vocally like they're 10 years younger than they actually are.
I give you that.
They sound like they're still about 32, 33.
Davey Maxwell says boot camp click.
Rap that way. I love Boot Camp Click. Boot Camp Click was a collective of groups put together though, because that's Smith and Wesson, Helter Skelter, and who else?
Black Moon. I love Helter Skelter, man. Sean Price is my nigga, man. R.I.P.
Helter Skelter lyrically versus Wu-Tang used to be a legitimate conversation once upon a time. The quality of the material over a course of time by Wu-Tang Clan just totally dismantled that conversation. But once upon a time, Boot Camp Click, very valid conversation, but have not done what Sheik, Styles, and Jada have done.
I think what's very interesting about what Sheik, Styles, and Jada have done is the fact that they've been able to be a collective, branch off, get better even as solo artists, and then come back as a collective and be stronger again. No one in hip hop has been able to do that. I think the one
Mike, no group has ever come back together and put out the type of album they just put out.
Never. And you know what? I was listening to, not to get too far off course, I was listening to the Carnival the other day, man, and I was like, man, Wyclef was brilliant. The Carnival was fucking brilliant to me. And
no.
And
it's a borderline classic to me.
It's a fucking classic. It's no question to me. Because at the time,
it was a little too lengthy for me, even though I understood the length, and I still kind of feel that way about it. But the material on there is there.
We had never heard anybody just make all those types of music in hip hop. Yeah, on one
You want to know
effort.
what?
He had calypso in there. He had like reggaeton before it was reggaeton.
Extremely
He
innovative.
had,
Yeah,
yeah,
extremely
he had
innovative
reggae
project.
shit in there. He had disco shit in there. Some hip hop shit. We had never seen anything like it. But saying all that
He
to
made it
say,
work too.
hmm,
He made it work.
he
He
made
made
it
it work.
work.
That's
It
what's
was
special about
seamless.
the album. He made it work.
It was seamless. And he was able to fit the refugees and all that in there. But saying all that to say, it made me think about the fact that, okay, the Miseducation of Lauryn Hill comes out after that. Imagine, right after that, if they would have been able to come back together and drop a Fuji album with those two skill sets. Like, but that's what the Locks were able to do.
Too
And
many
that's what's
egos in
so
that room.
fucking impressive about where the
Well,
Locks are
okay.
right now.
So let's speak to something right quick. The fact that they never got too big actually is serving them well in terms
Oh,
of the
definitely.
duration of their careers
Yeah,
because they're
definitely.
able to come back together.
Yeah.
Wyclef and Lauren were too big to ever come back together.
Yeah.
Like all the personal stuff aside, Mike, they were too big to come back together and collaborate and make the score again the way that they made it. That wasn't going to happen even if they came back together because they had just went and dropped classic shit without each other, and it's hard to come back together once everybody has gone solo and dropped classic shit. Wu-Tang is an example of that happening. Where
Yeah.
it's like, no, I can make an album that's better than the album that we put together by myself
Yeah.
and just
Yeah.
get you guys on some tracks.
Yeah.
You know?
I agree with you. I think the
And you wanna know
marginal
what?
success.
And Ray is really the one that paved the way for that because Ray is like, yeah, I got my classic shit with all y'all on it.
Exactly. But see, that's
Right.
kind of what the carnival was, and that's why it's called the carnival. But when Lauren dropped the Miseducation, she didn't have that kind of help, and it was over after that. Like, she proved that I don't need you
So
guys.
Mike, Mike, I was saying this about the Locks to say, I really think if they drop another project, and if the project is comparable to the one that they just dropped, and if it's better, definitely need to start having a conversation about where they are all time in terms of greatest hip hop groups ever, because
I think their
skills are
longevity
there.
speaks volumes too.
Hold on, the skills have always been there and are infinitely there. They just, it's like this, Mike. It's like I still put Mobb Deep over them because it's like when I look at the infamous Hell on Earth and Murder Music, I'm like, Locks don't got that. They can out rap them all day. They don't got that though.
No, you're right.
But you know what I mean. We Are the Streets was really dope. I thought the Living Off Experience album was their best album. I think one more project like the Living Off Experience album, they at least gonna have to be in a conversation somewhere. And I haven't felt like they've been in the conversation about their catalog, and I want to see that happen because they sound crazy fresh.
Well, it looks like everybody in the chat has
Fresh,
this
I sound
album.
old.
I'm sorry. It looks like everybody in the chat has this album at a 3. And JJ Ryder has it at a 4.5. So we got about 5 threes in here. Oh, yeah. Andre Shashir says it's a 3.25 out of 5.
I got 3.5, Dre.
Yeah.
But that's just because like the tracks that I feel like hit the mark, Mike. It's not a lot of songs. There's a Stick Up skit. There's the Exodus skit. There's the Prayer. So that's 3 songs gone. So you're talking about 10 tracks. I like 5 of the 10 tracks, 3.5.
Yes. You know what? I want to move on to the second subject. We were going to talk about Daytona because Daytona just celebrated its 3rd anniversary. And when we posted that and asked people what their favorite song on the album was, we posted in the actual text that it's a classic, and people had a problem with the fact that Daytona is being considered a classic. Do you think Daytona is a classic? And I think a lot of people's issue with Daytona being considered a classic is 7 songs. I have 2 questions here. Can an album be classic being only 3 years old? And can an album be classic with only 7 songs? And that's for you guys in the chat too. If so, let us know why not. But I'm asking you.
Hell yes to both. Yeah. First of all, most classic rap albums, Mike, you know it's a classic after the first or second time you hear it. Like, as in the first time you hear it, you want to make sure that the shit that you heard is as great as you think it is, so you run it back, and then you're like, damn, Daytona is one of those albums.
Yeah.
And as short as Daytona is, part of the beauty in Daytona is that it sounds remarkably full and complete to only be a 7-song player, Mike. It does.
Yes, it does.
It's Illmatic like in the context that it's very, very short, but very, very filling. There's not a misstep or a weak moment on there.
I have Daytona on vinyl. Thankfully to my lovely lady, she got this for me. But yes, it's one of those records where,
Mike, I told you.
Yeah.
If you know, is an official like pop cultural hashtag reference now. Like, people use it like if they're cooking, if you know, you know. You know what I'm saying? Like basketball players, if you know, you know.
Yeah.
So even that record has kind of like achieved like a classic cultish sense. I thought the record was a classic when I first heard it. Like, Mike, when I heard If You Know, You Know for the first time, I was like, oh, he in the zone. This is about to be amazing. And it was.
Ran off on the plug too like True Goy.
True Goy.
Listen, man, all right.
You can never do what I do, boy.
Still ducking shit that I did, boy. You know, when I first heard...
The side of the ball court.
I like If You Know, You Know. I mean, I love the whole fucking album. When I first heard the album, I would think I might have stayed up that night. But 2018, there was a whole lot of really good albums that were coming out. And, there was a lot going on as far as, Kanye West and the 7-song stuff that he was doing that summer. And when I heard this Pusha T album, it was short, but I was like, I want to hear this again. And really, I was just going through, and I think with the short attention span that people have right now, and I know a lot of people say they got a problem with the 7 songs, but I think in this day and age, I think it's brilliant to give people a 7-song album where people could take in all 7 songs and want to play them over and over. Because I don't know if it's just because, we listen to albums to kind of critique them, but it's so much music that comes out at such a massive rate and so much at one time that if you see an album that's like 15, 18 songs, you're like, shit, I'll go listen to that later. You know what I'm saying? And you kind of skip around and stuff. And what was so brilliant about Daytona was the fact that it was 7 songs. So it's like, okay, I can go listen to this real quick. But when you heard those 7, it was like, I got to listen to this again.
So hold on. So I want to speak to something right quick with that, Mike. What's beautiful about Daytona is that it's the rare rap classic to me where you hear the songs arbitrarily and they sound great to you, and you hear them together in sequence and still sounds great to you.
Exactly.
And just one song pops up
from
off the album, you're like, nah, play that shit. That's the mark of a classic. That's what I'm saying. Like, everything about the album is actually classic. If you want to complain about length, I mean, I guess I'll give you that. But I mean, Mike, the Mona Lisa ain't but that big. Mike, ain't nobody complained about the size ever.
Francisco Gomez says, Star sent me here. Shout out to you. Welcome. And shout out to Star as well. But yeah, man, I mean, listen, man, I think that it's one of those things that we have to change how we view albums. You know what I mean? Like, because the album era.
You want to know what it's like in a sense, and I'm glad you're wearing the shirt. It's very much like, and I'm not saying it's on the same level of classic, but Mike, Enter the Wu-Tang is one of those rare rap albums like that too, Mike, where it's like you listen to it together and you're like, oh, that's a classic. But when the songs pop up by themselves, you're like, that's classic. Like when Chess Boxing pops up by itself, that's a classic. Cream pops up, classic. Protect Your Neck, classic. Fourth Chamber, classic. You know what I'm saying? Clan in the Front, classic.
Well, when I know something is a classic too is when you put an album out there and you ask people what their favorite song is, and everybody has a different song. And every day of the week you have a different favorite song on that album. When I first heard it, it was The Games We Play was my favorite song on there. And I put that on repeat too. And it's funny, when you put that song on repeat, it just, like, when it rides out, it goes right back to the beginning where you can't... It sounds like a loop, right? And that's what's so brilliant about that
seamless the way
album.
it drops back in when
That
you say
whole
it
album's
already.
like that. That whole album's like that. It's
No,
made to
that's
be
what
on
I'm saying.
repeat. You know what I'm
Mike,
saying?
you want to know how I know the album's a classic too? Is that my favorite record on there, and the record that I think is the best record is the record I hear people talk about the least, which is What Would Meek Do. That's how I know it's a classic. I think that's the best song on there, and people tell me they think that's one of the weaker songs.
I slept on that song too. Hold on one
That
second.
shit
Let me.
crazy.
Yeah, that shit is crazy. Yeah, I slept on What Will Meek Do too, and
taking pictures like this GQ. It's Avion, me collarbone is see through.
right.
Angel on the shoulder, what should we do? Devil on the other, what would Meek do?
Yeah,
Papa
man.
Willie tell the judge to Akinelli. Middle fingers out the ghost screaming Machiavelli. Hail Mary, the scale fairy. Two sides of every coin, so we bail ready.
Well, you know, I was gonna go with the Kanye part, man. That I won't feel right till I feel like Phil Knight.
Mike, that's what
What?
I'm saying. That song is littered with gems, Mike. That
Yeah,
song is
man.
littered with gems.
It's fucking brilliant, man.
Mike, the way it came on, I'm Dylon. Well, I'm top 5 and all of them Dylon. Like,
I am the hope.
In just like,
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of people. Yeah, hold on.
Mike, even the way What Would Meek Do breaks down and goes into infrared, Mike, that's like people don't even understand the executive production process, even like that.
That's what I'm saying, man.
Transition into infrared, Mike. No, that's classic shit, Mike. The way that it just goes so seamlessly and flawlessly into the next record, and every track on there is like that. It just flips into the next song so easily. You're like, well, I'm here, and you got me, and you sound great.
I got to give it to Kanye, man. Kanye was brilliant on this album, man.
I mean, how about this, Mike? I think this is.
And Pusha was brilliant too.
I thought Daytona was a more impressive production job than B.
I'm not mad at that. I'm not mad at that.
Here's why. Oh, he know Common so well. He literally grew up on Common. He knew what to give Common. That's his dude from the South Side. He had to put something together for Push that worked for him. And it's like I told you, a dope boy hasn't been that effortless on the mic since Jay in his prime, Mike. He's effortless on there.
And the other part of it is the fact that remember all the stuff that Kanye was going through at the time. Like this was during the whole TMZ blow up where slavery's a choice. Right. It was a lot going on.
No, Mike, my favorite part of the What Would Meek Do is when he says, no more hiding my scars. I show him like Seal, right?
This was after the MAGA hats and all that. This was.
He was going in. They were snapping on that record. That record crazy.
Andre Shashir says B production was better regardless. I understand that from a technical standpoint. But I see what Coop is saying. This was more impressive because of the because of the environment, what was going on, who this person was, and we already knew Kanye for being soulful too. With this was different. This was a whole different sound.
No, how about this, Mike? Since he talking about I won't feel right till I feel like Phil Knight going for 6 rings, like this, like how about this? B is like Kanye's first 3P. This is like Daytona's like Blue Game Jordan.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? Like that dude old shooting fadeaways and just did that on the production tip.
Like, and people didn't think he had that in him. You know what I'm saying?
That's what I'm saying, Mike. I didn't think that he had that in him.
And the fact that he, this wasn't a soulful thing, and I'm not trying to, discard the whole soulful sound of Kanye, but he could do that stuff in his sleep. This right here, a lot of these records didn't even sound like Kanye produced them. Like, if you know, Santeria, like, Infrared, this shit is brilliant.
Hold on, Mike. Do you know how great that album was? Do you remember the article that I wrote for it?
Yeah.
I only took a mark off about how distasteful I found the cover to be. I found the music to be flawless, and I said so. But I found the album cover to be so egregious that I docked it a point. And the music is so great that I still want to take that back and just give it a flawless rating.
It's a flawless rating. It's a straight up classic.
The only thing wrong with that album is that cover.
Yeah.
And that's just because of the disrespect. And Ye don't get the ride on that.
No, I agree with that. But, Pusha was perfect on there too. And I'm giving Kanye props, but Pusha was perfect on that album. And his verse on Hard Piano, never trust a bitch who finds love in the camera. She'll fuck you or fuck around and fuck a janitor. Set the parameters. You either with the pro ballers or the amateurs. Come on, man. Yeah.
Cold-blooded.
Yeah.
Told you, Mike.
Can I live? Look at my new digs. Come on, man. Now I think I like the bust down, lower levels where you settle at. I'm the cock. You know what did he say? It was like, your bust down is dag. It'll come to me in a minute.
I know what you're talking about. He was double time on the
flow.
That's what I mean when I'm saying he's flawless. On
He's flawless.
His rhyme schemes and pattern. Oh, he's doing special stuff on the mic.
The best.
Doing it so flawless. The average listener's not even catching it.
Yeah. Wow, what did he say? It'll come to me in a minute, but it's probably one of my favorite verses on there.
Where my metal's at. Lower levels where you settle at.
I'm the pot calling the kettle black. Where it's no brake pedals at. Between God and where the devil's at. Had the double dutch and double back. And hopscotch to where the trouble's at. Exactly what the game's been missing.
Double dutch and
yeah, that's what I was thinking about. It's like, yo.
Mike, real talk, that's Biggie type shit.
It is. I was listening to Santeria the other day too, man. That second part, that shit is crazy, man.
Yeah.
And the infrared part, man, infrared is crazy. Infrared was so vicious that Drake jumped out of himself and did something that he wasn't even supposed to do.
You want to know what's crazy though? If you'll notice, like when Pusha's dissing these guys, he's not like going berserk. He's speaking real cold and calculated and carefully and softly.
Man, and that's what hurts the most.
Right, he's been killing them softly. It's not like he's menacing on a track, Mike. When he's going at them, he's not menacing. He's just firing away, and it's vicious.
Because when he's like, salute Ross, because the message was pure. You see what I see when you see Wayne on tour. Flash without the fire. Another multi-platinum rapper stuck but can't retire. Niggas get exposed. I see the cracks and I'm the liar. Shit, I've been exposed. I took the crack and built the wire. Now who do you admire?
Your rap songs is all trying my patience. Them numbers ain't real without inflation. Ooh.
Listen, I don't care about 7 songs, man. I don't care about 7 songs. Because like you said, it's complete.
Mike, not when you out here making classic records, rapping next to Ye, bodying niggas on track, speaking something. No.
It says a lot. It says a lot to be able to put together a 7-track album and it sound complete. I think that was one of our critiques of J. Cole's recent effort was the fact that it sounded incomplete. And that was like, 11 or 12 songs? Yeah. Like, it ain't easy. You know what I mean? They just made this thing work.
Yeah.
Donovan says that it is not a classic. Shaking my head. Hey, man, what's the last classic hip-hop album that came out? He said it's dope, but it's not a classic. I want to ask you, Donovan. Why is this not a classic album? I mean, all the bars that we're going through, like on a bar level, the bars are super high. The impact is there because the Drake thing and everything else. If you know, it was a big record. The production was flawless. And it held up too. Because if you listen to it right now, sounds just as good right now than it did in 2018. At least for me.
If you don't agree, I would ask you to go listen again.
Yeah. I think it's fair. When is the last time you actually listened to the album, Donovan? It's only 7 songs. It won't take too much time out of your day.
No, Daytona's the type of record, Mike, that like the record speak for itself. Like, go listen to that record. Tell me where you see the cracks or the flaws at.
He said the bars are crazy, but I'm not a big fan of Kanye's production. Damn, I've never heard that.
I've never heard that in my life.
Here's something new every day.
Who's your favorite producer?
Yeah, who's your favorite producer? I want to know that.
Now I want to know.
The other thing that came out, man, people were doing this Mount Rushmore. Yeah. Well, Rap Caviar put this out, Spotify. Shout out to them. Shout out to the good people out there, Spotify. And they did this Mount Rushmore, and I guess it was seemingly for, the 2010s, because that's what Rap Caviar is based on. That playlist focuses on newer hip-hop. And the people on this Mount Rushmore is Drake, Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole, and then they got a question mark there. Oh, Donovan says that Premier is his favorite producer all time, and you don't like Ye?
How can you?
We'll get to that. But anyway, LeBron says that Future should have that fourth spot. What do you think?
Pusha T.
Pusha T. How did I know you were going there? This is what I would say, because Nicki came in there and Nicki told LeBron, like, yo, you just missed the assist.
Hold on, Mike. From 2010 to 2020, he's dropped 3 dope albums. One of them is a classic. He's rapped next to the best of the best. That includes Kendrick in his prime.
Mm-hmm.
He bodied Drake and Wayne. What I mean, am I missing?
You know what? That is a good point.
What do you want a rapper to do? Well,
that is a good point.
His adversaries were 2 of the biggest guys this game has ever seen. He beat them. He's got a classic album. He's got 2 other dope albums. He's got classic guest appearances.
Yeah.
He's got the Good Music Project. Like, what you want, Mike? What you want?
I think it's safe to say, and again, I'm not trying to beat up on Cole. I know the J. Cole fans probably hate me. But Pusha T has done more.
He can go to Carolina with me.
Pusha T has done more musically 2010 than J. Cole has.
Easy.
Listen,
Easy.
This is what I'm doing. I'm taking J. Cole off of this mountain. If this is about hits, right? If we talking about Spotify playlists, taking J. Cole off this mountain and we're putting Nicki and Future up there. If we're talking about Rap Caviar and then talking about hits.
Nicki on there 2010 post?
Yeah. Nicki ran the 2010s. She was like the only female around. Like her impact is undeniable. Let's just call it what it is.
I mean, I'm just asking questions. I'm just asking questions up in here. Yeah.
Oh, Donovan said, I have a question for y'all. How many classic albums do y'all believe Kanye West has? Well, I'm glad you asked.
Sir, as an artist, are we talking total?
As an artist, he has 4.
As an artist, he doesn't have 4. He has 3. He has.
You're taking Graduation out?
Yeah, Graduation is not a classic.
You know what? Listen. I'm not a big fan. I'm not a big fan of Graduation.
Mike, I told Mike, everybody, Flashing Lights is my favorite Kanye. Roses and Flashing Lights are my favorite Kanye records. Like, so Graduation has arguably my favorite Kanye record, but it's not a classic. It's really, really dope. It's close. It's not a classic.
Well, you know, this is what I would say to you. Not to cut you off. I'm gonna pull what you pulled on me with the Marshall Mathers LP. To people who were around in that era and who came up during that time, it's a classic to them. So if you're gonna sit here and give Eminem these same passes, Graduation is a classic in that same way. Because I don't really like Graduation like that either. But when you ask people, you know, what was the life-changing moment for them that came up in that era, it's Graduation.
So I will say this then, and first of all, you're right. You got to be fair across the board.
Yeah.
I
we always give Eminem passes, so you know I'm just using my Eminem pass.
Yeah, part of the reason why Graduation is not a classic to me though, Mike, is because I feel like he has 3 classics. Oh, well, there are 2 definite classics that preceded Graduation to me, and that's The College Dropout and Late Registration, and I hear a slight drop off.
Yeah, me too. We're on the same page with that, but classics not always about that. You know what I'm saying? And like you educated me on the Marshall Mathers, it's about something else sometimes.
But I kind of feel about Graduation on a personal level the way I feel about the Marshall Mathers LP. If you want to tell me it's a classic, I'm probably going to have to rock with you just on a fundamental basis if we check in boxes. But when I hear that shit, I hear borderline classic.
Donovan says, Colleen Feinfrock says, Wale killed Cole. Go listen to Winter Schemes. Donovan
Cole killed Wale on that. You're absolutely wrong. Absolutely wrong.
Donovan says, College Dropout, Late Registration, and Graduation, in my opinion, are the classics. So you don't have My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy as the classic.
That's the real third classic.
I personally, I think that College Dropout is his best album. For a lot of reasons that, you know, certain debuts are classic because you just can't repeat them You had your whole life to make them, and College Dropout is a quintessential example of that. He's clearly a better rapper after that, but there's a lot of things on
Right.
that album you can't repeat. But if we're talking about from a technical standpoint, it's hard to say that he made an album better than My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy.
See, I would quibble with you about that because my thing with My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, when people say that it's his best project, is that, well, the songs on late registration are better when you match them up and start going song for song.
It's one of those things too where you kind of had to be there because
late registration. Like, how about this? It's rare that a classic album has as many hit records and just outright bangers his late registration had. Mike,
you know I rant and rave about late registration.
Heard him say, Mike, Touch the Sky, Gold Digger, Drive Slow, Roses, We Major, Diamonds from Sierra Leone, Late. What's that song with Cameron at the end?
We strive at home. What's the name of that song?
Mike,
Yeah.
It's everywhere. The interlude with Common that's on there. Crack music, Mike.
Crack
music.
music.
It's a tour de force of an album, Mike.
I agree. It's my personal favorite Kanye West album. And honestly, you're right. When you think about that album, Graduation is a drop off.
This College Dropout and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy, they have better classic feels than late registration. Oh, but the classic music on late registration, Mike, because damn near every record he hit on there is a classic. It's rare that a classic album has classic songs throughout. It's one of those albums.
The thing about the College Dropout is what it has that other Kanye West albums just don't have in loads is soul, man. Like, it's something in that album that grabs you. Message-wise, too.
No, and My Beautiful Dark Twisted Fantasy does the same thing that College Dropout does on an elevated level in terms of like the grown-up Kanye and making you feel that vibe. But Mike, if we just talking beats, rhymes, and life, late registration.
Now listen, I feel you. You just rattled off the songs, and like I said,
in there, Mike, listen to what I'm saying. Gold Digger and Roses are on the same album. That's Kanye.
No, I agree.
The Kanye that became this worldwide figure, it's not Kanye from the College Dropout. It's not Kanye from Graduation. The Kanye that became the figure that we know starts on late registration and everything that he is on that album.
Cutie the Bomb, met her at a beauty salon with a baby Louis Vuitton on the arm. She said, I can tell you rock.
I can tell you where.
You know, he couldn't rap like that on the first album.
I'm looking for the one. Have you seen her? My psychic told me that she would have an ass like Serena, Trina, Jennifer Lopez, 4 kids, and I gotta take all they badass to showbiz.
Okay, get your kids. Yeah, man. I mean, he was just a different rapper on there, man.
Epic on there.
And like I said about Diamonds, man, I think that was the first song that I heard from that album. And when I heard him busting out on that first verse, I was like, yeah, he's different now, man. Like,
Mike,
close your eyes and imagine. Feel the acid. Vegas on acid. Seen through East St. Laurent glasses.
And Mike, he's talking his shit, and he's talking his big shit on there, but he's talking his subtle shit too, Mike. It literally goes from Diamonds, from Sierra Leone with Jay, to We Major with Nas. He like, yeah, I got Jay over here, I got Nas over here.
Of course he did that on purpose. Feeling better than some head on a Sunday afternoon. Better than a bitch say yes too soon. Before you have a daughter, that's what I call karma, and you pray to caution.
Look, Mike, I didn't have a daughter when that record came out, but every time I hear that verse, because my daughter's 14 now, I'm like...
He didn't have a daughter then either.
Yeah.
And, you know, it happened. But, yeah, man.
God, she don't grow breasts too soon.
Projects, toe up, gang signs, throw it up. You know what I will say?
This broke off, that's how we grow up.
You know, a part of me, when we're talking about this Mount Rushmore, a part of me wants to put Kanye in there because I feel like without Kanye, there's no Drake. And I think without Kanye, there's no J. Cole in the form that we see him in. And you could tell Kendrick was very influenced by Kanye. Even that line right there comes from, Kendrick, replayed and redid.
You've been kind of growing on me a little bit. Kanye's place is a little different than that. I think it might be a little bit of a disservice to him, this point legacy-wise, to be putting him there on the mountain with those guys.
I agree.
he's walking around with, okay, in most people's eyes, 3 to 4 classic albums himself, Mike. And we know for a fact that he produced 2 other classics in B and Daytona. Not a lot of guys is walking around with 5 or 6 classics under their belt, and none of those people we mentioned are any of them, and that includes my guy Push. So
It feels like he can do it at will too. That's the thing.
no, he can't do it at will, Mike. Or Watch the Throne would be a classic,
And what? But
but
see, I
at the
hear
moment,
you, and and just operating, the publication and stuff. People will tell you Watch the Throne is a classic. So it's one of those things where when you have efforts that people argue down are classics, then they're in the conversation. You know what I mean? Like we can go back to the Marshall Mathers LP. I don't think it's classic, but so many people feel like it is. I'm not gonna argue it down that it's not. You know what I mean? So Watch the Throne is in the classic conversation.
Mike, that's a 3.5 star album.
I disagree with you on that, and I'm not a huge fan of it personally, and I don't think it's what everybody says it is, but it's more than that. It aged
How?
well.
Where? With what? With
I mean,
what? Mike, there's like 5 dope records on Watch the Throne. What the hell?
really?
There's Church in the Wild. There's Otis.
Oh
There's
goodness. You know what? We're gonna put this on According to Hip Hop, man. I got a few things that I'm writing notes because I want to put that debate out there. I want to ask the people what classic album Swiss Beats has produced. What else have we gone over here?
If you think Watch the Throne is a classic, you don't know what you're talking about. Period. Like that's not even close to a classic. It's not even close. It's not even in a conversation. It's not even conversation. You're gonna be hard pressed to even. It's not even a 4 star album, Mike.
It's 4 at least. Come on,
No,
man.
it's not, Mike.
Niggas in
Making
Paris
four-
was huge.
Mike, making 5 dope records doesn't get you 4 stars, Mike. Or we just would have gave it the X next.
No, come on, man.
Games
That
and
X
Crime.
album is nowhere
No,
near
no,
Watch
hell.
the Throne.
No, this-
That's disrespectful. That X
No,
album's
this is
nowhere
fucking
near
terrible.
Watch the Throne.
And Jay should be embarrassed that he let Ye wrap circles around him on that album too. That's another thing.
Well,
3.5.
Well, now that I'm not gonna sit there and argue you on. Yo,
It's
speaking of
embarrassing.
which, getting rap circles around. Did you hear that Eminem song, the Killer remix?
No, I didn't listen to it because you want to know what I actually ended up doing, Mike. I started listening to the original Timbaland, Swiss Beats versus battle, like I said I was.
Oh yeah.
First of all, Timbaland won.
Of course he did.
I don't care what anybody says. I heard those.
Again, man, I'm not a Swiss fan, man. So I'm gonna sound biased.
Mike, when Timbaland dropped One in a Million, I was like, I heard Finish Him from Mortal Kombat come on, and I was like, that's a wrap. We go ahead and wrap this up. And then I heard One in a Million, Mike, and I came front. I went up on YouTube and I started playing Aaliyah's whole album, One in a Million.
Mm-hmm.
And so I wanted to say something about Timbaland.
That's funny, man. We did that last night, man. Me and Dana was sitting here and we just started playing a bunch of stuff from One in a Million. It's funny.
Mike, I'm not finished with the album. I'm on track 8 right now. But here's something that I realized. Like, first of all, when we did our top 5 hip hop producers of all time, Timbaland didn't make the list. But a lot of it is because he really hasn't produced a hip hop classic.
Yeah, he's more of an R&B producer.
He's more of an R&B producer, Mike. But if we just want to talk about a beat maker in black music, Mike, I don't know if you can really put anybody ahead of Timbaland because I'm going to tell you something for certain that I kind of knew when it came out, and it's kind of held to be true. One in a Million came out in 1997, Mike.
Was it 7 or 6? Yeah, it was 7, yeah.
97. No, I remember, Mike. Me and Aaliyah are the same age, or were the same age. God rest.
Mm-hmm.
But that was the first time I was on the west side of Charlotte, Mike. That was the first time I heard niggas on the west side of Charlotte play an R&B album, like with their windows down, out in the streets and stuff. Like that's how hard the beats on that album were knocking. It was revolutionary. Mike.
It was.
You had never heard anybody making beats like that
ever
before.
I said that too.
And I'm going to tell you something else, Mike. In the last, I'd say, 30 years of R&B music, there's not a better album production-wise, beat-wise, and executive production-wise than One in a Million. You can't name one. That album's special, and the family not letting the music be streamed is part of the reason why that album doesn't get the flowers that it really deserves. It's one of the best R&B albums ever. and it's probably the best produced R&B album of the last 30 years, and definitely the most innovative. And that's Timberland and Missy, hard at work at their best shit.
Well, you
Mike,
know
when
what?
Beats for the Street, Mike, when Beats for the Street came on, Mike, I got turned up again. Like I was 16 years old listening to it again. I was like, this shit's still knocking. It's still hard.
This is what and I want to give Timberland his flowers because again, those guys were like some of my favorites. Like I love the Super Friends. I even went and bought the Timberland and Magoo album when it came out back in the day when I was a kid. This is the thing, man. I remember One in a Million being one of those lunch table, beats where, everybody was trying to replicate that beat, and we didn't even. I don't think we really cared about who made beats until Timberland came along. At least for me. Like, I can't really speak for everybody else, but yeah, I guess I was at a certain age where we weren't checking the credits and see who made whatever, until Timberland came along. And as far as, Timberland not being a quote-unquote top 5 hip-hop producer, I think we kind of looked at it in the vein of people who make hip-hop music. But I will say this, and I've always said this, and I'm a Neptunes guy. I don't think anybody fucks with Timberland when you talking about one man and the beat machine and one man and his equipment, and you put that man in front of that equipment, ain't nobody touching Timberland. And that's just the truth.
I mean, Mike, the beats that are on The Bachelor or on One in a Million and on Aaliyah's next album.
And Super Duper Fly.
And Super Duper Fly. And
which they made in a week, by the way.
Hold on, the second one with She's a Bitch on it.
Oh, that shit's crazy. We used to nerd out over The Real World. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Those 4 albums, Mike, you ain't gonna find better beats.
No. Timberland was in a league of his own. And like you said, the fact that the originality of it and the fact that they were just so far left, like they were thinking on a whole different level, and it really helped the fact that he had Missy, who's another person that thinks on a whole different level, right there with him to write.
I told you, Mike, how about this? You're right about checking the credits, because the beats on One in a Million made me check and find out who Timberland was.
Yeah.
I'm from Charlotte. My family knew Jodeci. And it made me check and find out about Timberland. And when I found out he was part of the Basement Crew, which was Devontae's crew,
yeah,
I immediately started telling cats in Charlotte, I don't think Devontae made No More Pain for Tupac. That sounds like Timberland.
Yeah, I definitely think Timberland made No More Pain. Yeah, I've always said that. I feel like Timberland made No More Pain. Yeah. The way that drum pattern is, that's definitely Timberland.
Right, like that drum pattern, that got Timberland all over it. I'm like, yeah.
And that song sounded like the future. It still does. Like when you listen to No More Pain from All Eyes on Me,
Timberland and Missy was doing
that shit don't sound like 1996 at all. Donovan Bramlett says that Tim had help. Actually, who was Timberland's help? And we always talk about people who have help. It's like, I get it, but it's like, show me what that person did without this cornerstone person that we're talking about. Like, we always have that conversation with Dr. Dre. Well, show me Scott Storch making Still DRE without Dre.
Hey, Mike. I mean, and I don't know how many cats have been in the Yo before, but if you know how the studio works, even as an artist, the producer is the central point and the focus, and whoever's in the studio's goal is to help the producer whatever needs to be done to get the track done. And I'll speak to that live because I still do it today. I'm close with the Yardies. I've been down to their house twice in the last month and been in the studio with them live while they've been making tracks, freestyling, giving feedback about song ideas, sounds, what I hear.
Right.
That's part of the process. That's when they like, they had help. Oh, no. That's part of the session. Like, what kind of session are we having? Because if we having the type of session where the producer just sitting down and we're not interacting with him and telling him what we hear or how it's making us feel, that ain't no fucking session. And I don't even rap anymore, and I'm still sitting in sessions like, hey, be like, hey, how that sound like that? Or, hey, can you take that low? Like, Matt was just making something like literally earlier this week, Mike, and I was like, can you make that sound like this? And he did it, and I was like, yeah, like that. I don't deserve no production credit for that.
Well, he's talking about, Donovan says Don Johans. And yes, Don Johans helped with the Justin Timberlake Future Sex Love Sounds and the Nelly Furtado Loose album, but we talking about the Aaliyah stuff. We're talking about the Genuine album. We're talking about
No,
these
that's
Missy
so,
albums.
so
Like
Mike,
Danja Hands was
I'm
not
just gonna tell you something,
around
Mike.
for the
Mike, when you
first
see a song,
Missy album. What's up?
when you see a song that got like when you see a song that got like 7 credits on it, that's because they were in the studio working together and the producer saw fit to give people their credit. That's a mark of like the producer's integrity oftentimes. So like when you
No,
talk
Donja's dope though. No, don't get it twisted. Donja's dope, and I've heard Danja Hands
no,
stuff without
no,
Timberland,
no, no,
and
no,
it
no, no,
ain't
no, no,
that
no, no,
though.
no,
You know.
no. I've heard him, but it's like really, it's like how much work did he really put in with Timberland, and how many of that stuff? Like when you pulling up Timbo's classic shit, how much shit did he have his hands on?
Well, no,
Timbo's classic shit.
this is what I will say about Danja Hands, and I do believe Danja Hands had a lot to do with a lot of the chords and the broadness of how Future Sex Love Sounds and Loose for Nelly Furtado turned out, because it reminds me of like Pharrell and Chad. Like you could tell the stuff that Pharrell does without Chad, but it's different when you hear Chad in there. That's the broad shit. But see,
So
we're talking about the '90s Timbaland, and Dodger Hands was nowhere near involved in any of that. Timbaland was
and also,
already a legend before Dodger Hands
right.
even came on his team.
So, Mike, let's go back to late registration right quick with John Bryan helping
Right.
Kanye with some of the executive production and co-production on
Yeah.
some of the songs. That's still succinctly a Ye project, though, even though John Bryan came in and helped. You know
Yeah.
what I'm saying? He asked John Bryan to come in and help because he was looking to create a certain sound that he didn't have
Yeah.
on the College Dropout. And so producers will do that from time to time. But what I'm trying to tell you, if you've ever been in the studio and you know Mike, you really are assisting in any way you can. And if you just happen to be another producer and a beat maker, Mike, I've seen it live so many times. A lot of how other producers end up getting co-producer credits and stuff is when the main person on the board take a break for an hour or gotta go do something.
Well, see, this is the
Somebody else
thing.
might
I don't even want to minimize Danja Hands' role
No, I'm not trying
in
to
those,
minimize it. I'm just trying to
like that. But this is what I'm saying. Like,
Everybody
if
has
artists
something
if
to
artists
do, right?
can do their thing and then go collaborate with another artist and make an album together, how come producers can't go collaborate with another producer and say, we made these two albums together? That's fine. We know what
See,
Timberlake could do by himself, and I have no
you want to know
problem.
what's crazy about that?
What?
It's almost like you'll go to another producer. Like people will go to Primo to get scratches, but won't build tracks together. And you're right about that. I mean, it could just be the competitiveness or the nature of the beast. But what I'm saying is, if you're in the studio with a producer, your job, everybody's job in the studio is to help producer make the track the best that it can possibly be. Period. Point blank. It's just the level to which the help's being doled out. Timberland is somebody that his biggest help has actually been Missy, and that's what I mean.
Yeah.
She helps him more creatively and sonically where he wants to take things, and sitting back there actually scheming up drum patterns and beats and coming up with things. Producers who are dope usually don't need that sometimes. They just need inspiration, other vibes, other feelings, other thoughts outside their own mind. So when you're in the studio with a producer, everybody helping the producer.
Yeah.
And if they not, get the fuck out the studio.
What did you think? Well, you said you didn't listen to the song. Let me tell you what I thought about this Eminem. This Eminem Killer remix, right? So Eminem just released Killer remix. It was on Music to Be Murdered By. It came out early last year, and he put Corday on it, and he put Jack Harlow. I always want to call him Jake for some reason. You know what? Jack Harlow actually came off on it really dope to me, and he came off really comfortable. He didn't go in there. I was expecting Jack Harlow to come in there trying to rap fast, because he kind of does that on that What's Poppin', because he can do it. But he came in there just spitting. You know what I'm saying? Kind of reminded me of like on some Mac Miller type shit. And I thought it was dope. Like, he came with his punchlines, boom, boom. Corday came in there. He kind of sped up the pace a little bit. I like Corday, but you could tell Corday be trying. You know what I'm saying? Does that make any sense?
Qualify it a little further. I think I understand what you're saying.
It's like, you could tell that some people come off with a natural flow. Like when Method Man used to approach the mic, you never felt like Method Man was just trying. You know what I'm saying? And I know that's an extreme case. I'm just saying. I'm just trying to give an example of, when somebody effortlessly is doing things.
Mike, it's the most effortless delivery ever though. Can we pick somebody else?
That was the first person I thought about. Anyway.
Because he's got the silky, Mike, because he's got the silkiest come in and delivery ever, especially coming into a verse. Nobody comes into a verse smoother than them. So you just want to start at the top of the food chain and compare Corday to the top of the food chain.
I'm not comparing Corday, but it's out. But you know,
Crazy the shit you do.
and then Eminem comes in last and just starts rapping unnecessarily fast, rapping unnecessarily long. It's one of those things where it's like, damn, is his verse over yet? You know, I get it, and I think we were talking earlier offline about this. I feel like Eminem's fast flow has become a gimmick and almost a crutch for him to not really be spitting like any lyrical shit anymore. You know what I mean? It's just more of these lyrical didexities where it's like it sounds it's boring now, man. You know what I mean? It sounds like a crutch. I hate that.
You want to hear him say something is really what you're saying.
And because I know he can, you know what I'm saying? Like
Right.
there was once a time when Eminem could go in there and just kill you with personality, flow, and straight up bars, as opposed to just relying on rapping super fast. I think that's such a cop out.
So he might. So I said this about X earlier too, and it could be the same thing with M. Not as detail oriented with revealing the details of the craft, just kind of going in there because so skilled in another Hall of Fame MC. Like Mike, these guys been rapping their whole lives. If you think that it's not easy for them to go into there and spit a verse, and you might think that it's not good, but for them it's easy in a day's work done. It's an inspiration thing, and he just doesn't probably sound inspired on that record, and that's been a struggle for him for some time now because he's not mired in controversy anymore. He's not the most polarizing thing in hip hop anymore. A lot of his content was built off dire personal situations, which he's obviously no longer in because he's a multimillionaire over 100 times. Personal relationships and situations, drug abuse and habits. He's become a grown man. That's affected his subject matter. He has his skills to rely on, so he goes there. X has his pain to rely on. He goes there. Jay has hustling to rely on. He goes there. Nas has the project window to rely on. He goes there. You're seeing him go to what works best for him. It's what all greats are doing as they age, is what we're finding.
Why do you think that he put out a remix for a song that he put out last year? Like, what's the, and if you're uninspired, what is the purpose of releasing a remix to a song a year later? Like, that no one asked for. Is there an album coming? Doesn't seem like it. You just put out is there a deluxe reissue of an album that wasn't really critically acclaimed that came out last year? Like, if you're uninspired, what's the point of even doing this?
I have no idea, Mike. Quite frankly, I don't know.
I mean,
I don't know.
I feel like over the past couple of years, Eminem has probably been hearing some of the things that go on blogs and people questioning his legacy. I think that it's almost one of those pop-up things like, hey, remember me? I'm still here.
Hey, you want to know what? And I'm being serious when I say this because we have a crop of MCs right now where, quite frankly, they've been around and relevant and viable enough that we could be seeing some of our upper echelon elder statesmen MCs suffering some midlife crisis musically.
I think that's where we're at.
And so, like I said, like Mike, Nas' first album came out in 1994. It's like most people may not like the Hit Boy pairing, but it's like, oh no, I see that. He's trying to stay current and stay relevant. That's midlife crisis shit. You know what I'm saying?
The thing is, and I'm not talking about any MC in particular, but a friend of mine was talking about this. It's like when you've been the cool kid in class, since you can remember, I guess it's kind of tough to deal with the fact that you're not that anymore.
No, Mike, I mean, that's real. Like, Mike, like when I'm 39 now, Mike, the way my phone rang when I was 28, 29, the phone may not ring some days if it's not you or somebody close to me. and that just kind of comes with life sometimes too. That's what I'm saying. It could be some midlife crisis artistically, not saying personally, but
Right.
artistically. Times if I'm finding out, it's like, no, I still love rap, still want to rap. What am I gonna do about it? Because I made all this money. I got all these businesses and investments and stuff over here. I still want to do it, but kind of what do I want to do with it? I kind of don't know. I think I'm gonna go buy a Bentley.
Nothing gives you that feeling like, and I think that's what Tom Brady's going through. Michael Jordan probably went through that. It's like nothing gives you that feeling
Mike,
like when
Mike,
you're the guy. You know what I'm saying?
Mike.
Like
No,
you
no,
could
no. Hold
retire
on
and
one
go
second.
do something else, but you're never gonna
No,
put on that Bulls jersey and they'll be like, and now starting at
Mike.
shooting guard.
Mike, Tom Brady's not going through that. Tom Brady just got done waxing the guy that's come along that's probably closest to his throne to make sure, no, 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 I'm putting this L on your record so you don't touch my throne. No guy that old in any sort of competitive sport or arena has done that to his younger
No, no,
brother.
no, 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 no. I'm not saying he's going through that
He's
in
somewhere
that
else.
sense. The fact that he won't retire, because there's been a lot of times where Tom Brady could have just said, you
Mike,
know what, I'll call it quits.
no, Mike,
He wants to keep beating people.
No, Mike, I don't think people really understand what Tom Brady's really trying to do. People keep looking at his rings like he's trying to have more rings than any football player. No, Mike, he's trying to have more rings than Bill Belichick. And Belichick has 6 as a coach and 2 as a defensive coordinator. He's coming for Belichick.
Yeah.
Right.
But with all that being said, whatever his intentions are on that, whenever he does sit down, there's nothing that's going to give him that feeling that he gets on Sunday. And I think that's what these guys are going through. It's like, especially Jay. It's clear that he has been accustomed to being the top of the brass as an artist. And now people are looking at you more so on the business end, and he can't say that doesn't bother him. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's
I mean,
about
so Mike,
when people put
the
these
last
Mount
time
Rushmores up and you not on it, and you think word for word, bar for bar, you nicer than these guys right now. But the fact that people won't recognize that has to. You think that does nothing?
No, I mean, like I mean, Jay is noticeably competitive in
Exactly.
rap as anybody that we've ever seen.
Ever.
Like, noticeably competitive ever. He's
Yeah.
probably the most competitive guy in rap history, Mike. He's super competitive. I think that's just his mentality. Um, but realistically, Mike, the last time that I even thought that he was in what I like to call MVP consideration form was on the Blueprint 3, Mike. These dudes got to be realistic. I mean,
Nigga, that
I
was
mean, Mike,
2009.
that's what I'm saying, Mike. Like Mike, if you tell me that Nas and Jay are the greatest MCs of all time, like, yeah. But if you want to talk about the last time I thought they was like a top 3 or to 5 MC in the game, Mike, yeah, we're gonna have to go back a decade.
Let's
Because even
keep it
for
a
how
buck. Those
Mike,
guys
even
who
how
you I'm sorry
go
not
ahead.
to interrupt. I was just gonna say those two guys that you're saying the greatest of all time in many people's lists. They just put out a record about a month ago, and people were laughing at the bars.
That's what I mean.
They
So
were
it's like
the cryptocurrency Scarface and another
Coinbase
B,
Scarface.
other B, and all this. You know, it's like, and you would expect, and I know they expect too, for people to be floored and wowed by of their presence, and the fact that that doesn't happen, that does something to the ego. It just does, and I
But
think that's
Mike,
what Eminem's going
that's
through.
no, Mike. That's our fault. We did that to them. To those two specifically, we did that. That's our fault. When, because here's really what happened. When Big and Pac died, we put them two on a pedestal, and they made enough great material to stay there through their prime, and they've just remained there, and rightfully so. But if we talking currently, Mike, Pusha T's better than both of them right now.
Mm-hmm.
Conway's better than both of them right now. I mean, Mike, even Cole could probably out rap both of them right now. Same thing with Kendrick. You know, it just is what it is, Mike. That's why Rakim's verse on ELE 2 last year was so impressive. I'm like, did the dude that came out in the 80s just have the best lyrical verse of the year? That's Mike, people can't I don't think people understand the fact that he just delivered such a great verse, how hard it is. He sounded better than the guys who are currently the best. Nas and
And he
Jay
been
aren't better than Benny
rapping.
right now either. They're not better than Benny right now. They're not better than Gibbs right now. Like
Yeah.
I wouldn't say that they're better than any of those guys.
I tell you
Gibbs just
what.
made Alfredo.
I tell you
Nas and
what.
Jay made nothing like Alfredo since I was in my 20s.
I tell you what. Hypothetically, and this ain't no knock to X or anything. That same track that X was on, Griselda. If Rakim had that verse, he'd have the best verse on there. Probably one of the best verses of the year if Rakim were on that verse. And that's just the truth. I know that. I'm confident in that. I don't know things that don't happen, but I'm confident in the fact that Rakim is such an outlier that none of these rules seem to apply to him. And I think the first time that we start seeing artists from a previous era just kind of not being able to keep up with the younger guys and newer guys was kind of some of the 80s MCs, but they weren't out there like that. So it was like they would do features here and there. Like you would hear Slick Rick here and there. And I love how they used to feature Slick Rick because they would always make the Slick Rick feature all about Slick Rick. And they would cater to him and his sound. And I thought that was so dope when Slick Rick would do features back in the day.
Mike, they better had.
Yeah, it's amazing. You know, they roll out the red carpet for Slick Rick, and
They're supposed to.
yeah,
They
of
earned
course,
that.
of
Yeah.
course. And I think Kane didn't do a great job of adjusting. I think KRS made records with people that were kind of his ilk, and I think KRS did a really good job of adjusting in the 90s. We talking about 80s MCs
I'm
that
about to say,
adjusted.
like, if we talk, okay, so let's go to like what I'd say the top 5 MCs from the '80s are, which would probably be Rakim,
hmm
Kane, KRS, G-Rap, and Slick Rick, and a lot of people's, and most people.
I would say LL, but I'm cool with that.
I was actually about to say outlier would be LL.
hmm
Some people feel like L should be in there, and that's fine. If you want to talk about the transition, Mike, KRS is really the only one to successfully make the transition, as in he put out consistent quality projects in the 90s, as in Return of the Boom Bap,
hmm
the KRS-One album. I forget the I Got Next was pretty solid. I'm not sure if
I
that
Got
was
Next was
2000s
dope.
yet. I feel like that was I Got Next was
I
dope.
Got Next
I
was
like the
97.
I thought that the one before the KRS-One album was better than I Got Next and Return of the Boom Baps. That's 3 dope projects
Yeah.
in the 90s. Rakim has the 18th letter in the 90s, and that's about it. Cool
Yeah.
G Rap has 4, 5, 6 in 1995. I will say this about Cool G Rap, though, Mike. Of all those guys, he was the guy that was most ready to rap with the top-notch guys when he came back, because in 1995, he is rapping next to Nas, and he deserves to be rapping next to Nas, and you can hear the
Prodigy.
influence
Yeah.
from Nas.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like, he's rapping on Fact Life. It's like, no, Nas ain't fading G-Rap. It's like he got the better verse, but G-Rap's right there, and yeah. So G-Rap lyrically transitioned well. Like, G-Rap in 95 could rap with Biggie and Nas.
I think that
Later
the
on,
styles
years
have
later.
changed so much where it's like, you don't, the people who are the quote unquote hottest in the game, you don't expect Jay and Nas and those guys to rhyme with. It sounds crazy even when Jay does a song with Future or something. Like, I didn't even love I didn't love the Jay-Z and Drake collaboration.
So,
As hard as that DJ Paul beat was, it was just something stylistically that didn't work. Now the one with him and Pusha T worked. Drug Dealers Anonymous worked.
yeah, that
Yeah.
worked marvelously.
Yeah.
I wish that would have made an album somewhere. Okay, but here's what I'll also say, too. These guys also changed rap in the sense when we're talking about Rakim, KRS-One, and these guys, they're only like 5, 6, 7 years removed from these guys. They're not
Yeah.
that much older.
Right.
And so when you're talking about Nas and Jay rapping with somebody like a Kendrick or a Cole, it's like, that's not how the normal gap has been. That's more like a 15-year gap. Usually, your prime and how it works. So it's like when I look at them and the stuff that they've done, like post, I'd say 2003-ish, Mike, I
Mm-hmm.
haven't been expecting them to go bar for bar with the guys from the era that are coming up. That's never been how the standard works. Like when Rakim came back in 1997, Mike, a lot of people felt like he was the greatest MC. Like in 1997, Rakim was still considered to be the greatest MC of all time by most
Right.
people's estimation.
Well, I mean,
And
Pac and Big
it,
and stuff, but yeah,
yeah. No, well, no. In '97, I think people still felt that way about Rakim. The Biggie and Pac
yeah,
thing had happened, but hadn't swelled to the proportions that it had yet. And Rakim was coming back too, and so
right,
that kind of made him the greatest MC of all times coming back, though. But I say this to say
right.
the 18th letter didn't necessarily disprove that he was the greatest MC of all time, Mike. But I'm going to tell you something that I know, and you know how much I love Rakim. The 18th letter in Volume 1 from Jay came out the same day. I ain't think Rakim was better than Jay. Not in '97. Not when I heard how Jay
Yeah.
was spitting on Volume One.
Well, I mean, the thing is,
So
it's two things. You got people who you've heard so much greatness from. They have to live up to Paid in Full. You gotta live up to Follow the Leader. You gotta live up to Let the Rhythm Hit 'em. And then you got somebody like Jay who's coming fresh. You know what I'm saying? Like
right.
you got a
I'm not
clean slate, and that's
like
tough to
right. I'm not
compete with.
expecting Rakim to sound like the way Jay sounds on his second album. I'm not expecting Rakim to sound like that on his fifth album when he's been gone for 5 years, even
Yeah.
though he's the greatest MC of all time. That wasn't the expectation. Nas and Jay were better than Rakim in '97, and it's just what it is. It didn't change the fact that he was still considered to be at the time greater than them all time. And so we just need to start contextualizing these things when we're having these conversations.
But the thing is,
in terms
and
of where we're placing people.
oh, exactly, and it goes back to my original question: why? Like, why at this point is Eminem putting out music that is uninspired? That he's fighting against Ghost. We know he's not gonna put out records anywhere close to his height. Like
Right.
at this point, why? Like, and it's got to be the fact that you just can't let go of being who you are to the people. Cause honestly, man, I hate to say it. I mean, if Jay and Nas announced that they were gonna do a album together, I mean, people would be interested, obviously, because it's them. But I don't think it would shut the world down. I just don't. I don't, because we all know, regardless of whether we're gonna say it or not, we all know that we wish that could have happened some years back. And right now, based on the output, we're not that excited for it.
Mike, these guys came out when I was 13 and
Yeah.
15 years old, respectively. I'm about to be 40. They've been around forever.
Forever.
People need to. That's what I mean about contextualizing. It's like, stop acting like these dudes popped up 10 years ago. They've been here a quarter century, rapping their ass off.
Let's just keep it real. Like, let's contextualize it in that sense too. Like you said, that's like Stevie Wonder and Barry White saying they're gonna do an album together in the early 2000s. Like,
Right, ain't nobody really copping that, Mike. I'm not copping Stevie and Barry White in 2000. And Mike, what's crazy is that the city came on today from Intervisions and was bobbing to it, but it's like, no.
give me
one
that
hears
shit
Stevie
in the
and Barry White in
70s.
2000.
Yeah, give me that shit in the 70s. But in the
Right.
early
And
2000s, I'm like, man,
look,
thanks,
look,
but
Mike, I want to hear Stevie from 72 to 81.
yeah.
I want to hear Prince from 81 to 92. Mike, I think Prince is the greatest artist to ever live, Mike. I don't be playing musicology.
I mean, it's just real. It's real, and it happens to everybody. Everybody has their prime. So there was a meme out there my girl sent to me, and it had Jimi Hendrix on it, Michael Jackson on it, Tupac on it, Prince on it, Whitney Houston, some other great performers.
You can have all these rappers if you give me Prince back.
And it said, if you had one concert to go to, which one are you going to? And I'm like, you already know me. But I did say this. I did say this though. I said if it's anything after the Bad tour, I'm going Prince. But if we talking about Bad and before, Michael Jackson's the greatest performer ever to grace the earth. So you do have to contextualize those things because once he start lip syncing and stuff, it's like, damn, man. You
No,
know,
Mike, you're right because I don't think people understand. Prince arguably, along with Michael Jackson, gives the greatest live show ever seen. But Prince really didn't start giving those shows that he's legendary for. And here's part of why Purple Rain was so important is he became the on-stage entertainer too in full. His
hmm
concerts before that, when people talk about them, they were dope, but not epic. But when you hear people start talking about his concerts, pretty much around 1999, leading into Purple Rain, it starts getting epic.
hmm
Mike already had made Off the Wall and Thriller and was already on stage a beast. And so you're right about that sentiment as well.
I watched the Bad Tour a couple of weeks ago, man. Like, on YouTube. I was hoping for the days when they would have it on YouTube. This man was going from bell to bell, just high energy performances, like 2.5 hours.
Well,
Just him.
Mike,
He
those two
had one.
guys, like, we're never getting that again. We're never going to get guys that are going to make music like that and be that on stage. It's so rare. We got
It
them
was
around the same
crazy.
time. We got them around the same time. It's rare. It's literally the change in black music. Michael Jackson and Prince are the change in black music.
I was like, man, what is this guy on, man? He was doing, and he was speeding up the records too. And it was like he would do like three up
They were
tempo ones, and then
both
he
of them.
might throw in a ballad. It was, how like a lot of people do, they're resting in the ballads. This guy was going, jumping in and out of choreography, singing every single thing, and and mind you, he did 150 dates of this, night in and night out. Crazy.
And you want to, Mike? When I was listening to Purple Rain the other day, he's doing things musically on that album that people just didn't do. When Doves Cry doesn't have a bass line. Computer Blue has two bridges and a full like a minute and a half guitar riff. Mike, I heard that guitar riff and I was like, Mike, right? He is the best guitar player ever. This isn't
Ever.
the best guitar riff. Look, Mike, this isn't the best guitar riff on this album because Let's Go Crazy and Purple Rain are on this album. This is the third best guitar riff on this
I
album.
love his guitar work on The Beautiful Ones. I mean, shit's crazy, man. Like, I think that, when you talk about him and, his guitar work, I think because he did so many other things great that people don't want to call him the greatest guitarist, but he's the best I've ever heard. And I'm no
Mike,
guitar playing
you're
expert. I am a musician. I play the instrument, but it's the best I've ever heard.
No, Mike, you're right because I always thought it was Santana, but when I listen to the stuff that he's playing on Purple Rain, I'm like,
Yeah.
Santana can't play that. Santana's not playing that guitar riff on Darling Nikki.
No, no.
He's not grinding into the acts like that and creating them riffs and them sounds. No, he's not.
I mean, when he went out there at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame and, basically showed every legendary guitarist what it was, I mean, it's what it is, man. Like, the best I ever
Let's go
seen.
crazy at the Super Bowl in the rain with a do-rag on.
Effortless, man. I mean, even the final Purple Rain that's on the album was a live performance. It's flawless, man. It's incredible. You know me, I'm a Michael guy, but
Best stage performance I've ever seen. It's not even nobody's even in his league that I've seen live.
yeah. I mean,
I didn't see Mike.
I saw Mike. I was like 4 years old, but it was incredible. I mean, I remember it. It was incredible. But we got to get out of here. We going on almost 2 hours. But yes, I think everybody can agree that the DMX was 3 mics, or 3 purple tapes out of 5. Gave it a 3 out of 5. I think everybody else did the same. And Daytona is definitely a classic. I mean, it is what it is. I don't think there's any time limit on a classic. I believe in instant classics. I think when you know, you know. Pun intended.
You know.
And so next week, I think we got the Migos album dropping.
Right.
Culture 3. This has been the longest break that the Migos ever have taken. I'm going to keep it real. And you know me. I like the Migos. I fuck with the Migos. But I don't think this album's going to be good. The break has been too long.
Money, fame, breaks, life, breakup, success. It's
Yeah.
gonna be hard.
This is going to be that album where, because these guys haven't even been collaborating together. Like, their togetherness, I question at this point. Hopefully they prove me wrong. But they seem like 3 individuals right now.
Mike, what Dre say when they get to skipping and slowing down?
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, speaking of which, Mike, I want to leave on this note. We always talk about how Big Boy is the creative influence in Outkast, in our opinion, based on the tracks we hear. I want to give you one track from their first four albums, one track from each one where Dre's definitely the creative influence.
Okay.
Deep, Deep off Southern Playalistic.
Okay.
Wheels of Steel off AT Aliens.
That's interesting.
Synthesizer off of Quemini.
Oh, definitely.
Definitely. And Mike, and I'll Call Before I Come off Stank On You. Those are all Dre songs.
I agree with that. I think Bonds Over Baghdad too. I think that's Dre.
Definitely Dre. Yeah. You want to know what's crazy, Mike? Bombs Over Baghdad and Skew It on the Barb are Dre to me. I just think Big Boy out-rapped him on his own shit.
You think Big Boy out-rapped him on Bombs Over Baghdad?
I do, Mike. Make a fat diamond out of dusty coal.
I don't know about that.
We on the roll. Hold up, stop, wait, control. Like
I don't know about that.
Yeah, he was Mike. Oh yeah, Mike. When you come to ATL, well, you better not hide because the Dungeon Family gonna ride.
No. Big Boy did his thing on there, but in Slum National, Underground, Thunder Pounds, when I stomp the ground like a million elephants, a silverback orangutans, you can't stop a train. What?
Don't come unprepared, I'll be there, but when I leave there, better be a household name. Weatherman telling us it ain't gonna rain, yet we sitting in the drop top soaking wet, sitting in a silk suit trying not to sweat. No, I remember that.
Hit a somersaults without the net, but this be the year that we won't forget. Yeah, no, lyrically,
First of all, both of the verses are epic. That's a classic song. But Big Boy's delivery, Mike, because he switched up his flow pattern about 3 different times, Mike.
Because I don't even know.
I like the totality. Dre's verse is a great Dre verse. Big Boy's doing a few different things on that verse and spitting with Dre. I just prefer his verse. I thought it was in the way he closed the verse, Mike, it was perfect.
It was epic. No. He did his thing. Before we get out of here, and you mentioned Skew It on the Barbie, man. Like, Big Boy had a highlight situation in that, and I love Big Boy's verse on Skew It on the Barbie, and I think that he has the best verse. But I don't know if it's definitive because that common denominator.
Skew It on the Barbie is Big Boy's coming out party as a lyricist because he got Dre and Raekwon on the track. That's his coming out party. Yeah, he do have.
I don't know if he definitively got Dre, man. Dre slid in that track. Fine. The common denominator, the nigga numerator, never know who the hater niggas cater to go. Eco.
He extended his flow and hit him with, I gotta hit the source, I need my other half of Mike because that Southern Playalistic Cali music is a classic rock. It was over when he did that.
Cali Party pointed to Cater, they got my back, so.
My back, so we gonna keep on jabbing and stabbing off in the track. I think it's time to bungee, but buddy, we'll be back. And I finna put some D's on the lag, know that.
Yeah, that's a dope record. I love that record. But that find the common denominator, the nigga numerator, never know who the hater niggas cater to your ego. I'm sorry like Atari who's a cousin to Calico. This in Puerto Rico, back on the street like Chico, the bar, large and got a lack in the garage. Cute parts here and there, I declare hard, my lord. Wow.
Still not better.
I think that we expect such greatness from him that we kind of like, that's just another Dre verse, but yeah.
I'm just into giving Big Boy his due.
You know me, I'm the king of giving Big Boy his due. But, Dre was as close to perfection on Aquemini as anyone could ever be. So,
and that's what I'm trying to say. And he is getting out-rapped on some of those tracks by Big Boy. So what does that say about how great
I think Mamacita, Big Boy got him. Definitively for me. Like, it's no question.
That's the best verse on Mamacita, too, is Big Boy's verse.
Yeah. Friday night, wow, breaking the old school out, boy, be cruising. Woo!
Trying to just pull 2 of the things, because that's just what I'm used to.
I mean that. The first to look my way just gonna get splack packed from the front to the back. This cognac got my throat burning like burlap. Everybody cheesy, and nobody told them cut like pleases. He took it, they praised my crew like Reverend Hodo praising Jesus. Wow.
Phineas was a meanie. The skeezer was a bean. She thought we was some motherfucking G's.
I love that verse, man. So I checked it like the king I am. No disrespect intended.
No disrespect intended.
So the Anna Silly friends get out before they got offended. To the LaQuintai we went.
Laying people down on the freestyle.
Yo. Yeah. Now, Dre's verse was dope, but, Big Boy, he carried that one, man. I love that whole song, but again, that's a perfect album. But yeah, next week, man, we're going to get to that, man. We out.